Good evening. Hello. I need everyone to take their seats if you haven't yet. We're going to start our program. In the interest of, we have a nice post-reception happening this year, so I know all of you like to socialize and talk amongst yourselves, so we want to give you ample time to do that. So we're going to try to get going right away. So welcome. It is our 12th induction ceremony of the Athletics Hall of Fame. I am Erin McDermott. I'm the athletic director. And as you know, I've been here for a little over a year now, and it's been a very exciting and fun adventure for sure. Last year, Maroon individual and team performances resulted in the University of Chicago finishing 16th out of 450 NCAA Division III schools for the Learfield Sports Directors Cup standings. It was our highest finish ever. And it was our first finish in the top 20. We earned UAA titles, top 10 national championship finishes, and 2 of our Maroons were national champions. We've also added new positions through the support of the university. We hired one of our own in John Fitzgerald to be our head baseball coach. As Brian Baldea is transitioning to a full-time administration position, and we will be honoring Brian, for those of you who will be joining us for that, in the spring for his service as a coach. We also were able to add some full-time assistant coach positions in our men's and women's soccer programs and in softball. We have a full-time strength conditioning coach now who will be working with all of our teams. And soon we will be hiring an assistant athletic director for alumni relations and development. These positions will support our objective of providing a winning and enhanced educational experience for our student athletes. We were also funded to conduct a facility study to develop a master's plan for athletic facilities so we can work toward the objective of all students having the experience of competing in first-rate facilities. We continue to be committed to the life of the mind and the body through the educational model of athletics. Last week, we held an Aims of Athletics event for student athletes and staff. The video will be posted to our website soon, so it's coming to a video viewing device near you soon. President Zimmer, Vice President Karen Warren Coleman, and I all spoke. Amos Alonzo Stagg's belief that winning isn't worthwhile unless one has something finer and nobler behind it was the basis of my comments. Holding true to that notion, I can assure you that athletics at the University of Chicago aims to enrich the life of the whole person through working collaboratively to reach performance goals, embracing diversity of thought and culture, persevering through failure with resiliency, and competing with integrity. When we win, we will win with finer and nobler values behind us, and we will always be united in Maroon pride. It is an honor to share this evening with you. Tonight, we are here to celebrate our Athletics Hall of Fame inductees who represent the highest of achievements and who continue to inspire all of us. Congratulations, Jim Hayden, Paul Tony Hinkle, Kelly Humphrey, Larry Liss, Wesley McGee, Jim Raptis, Corey Schwanz, and Annie Strummel. There are others in attendance tonight that we should recognize before we begin the main program. Hall of Fame members who are in attendance tonight, and please stand when I say your name. Neil Cowie, Bill Gray, Bill, are you here? Bill Gray. Ann Harvella. Mary Jean Mulvaney. Kelly Osler. And Joel Siemens. We are also honored by the presence of one of our alums who is a university trustee, Paul Jovovich. Our graduate Order of the Sea president is here, Dennis Walden. How are you, Dennis? John Craig, our NCAA faculty athletic representative, also over in the corner. John serves as our voting delegate for UAA and NCAA legislation and is certainly a trooper when we have all kinds of searches happening as well. It is now my pleasure to introduce Michelle Rasmussen. Michelle is the Dean of Students for the university. She arrived about a month before I did. As the Dean of Students, she oversees major programs within campus's student life, or CSL as we call it, including student health and counseling services, the University Community Service Center, and the Office of International Affairs. She has held student life and academic positions at Bryn Mawr College, Duke University, and Wesleyan University. Please welcome Michelle.
Good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here. My name, as Erin let you know, is Michelle Rasmussen, and I am the Dean of Students in the university here at University of Chicago. And on behalf of the university and our Vice President of Campus Life and Student Services, Karen Warren-Coleman, who could not be with us tonight, I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's Hall of Fame dinner. I particularly want to congratulate all of our newest inductees to the Athletics Hall of Fame, and also to extend my appreciation to the friends and family members who have joined us tonight. This is truly a wonderful opportunity to gather together and to celebrate. Before we officially recognize those athletes whose performance as Maroons distinguished them and the university, I want to talk about the important role that athletics plays here at UChicago. Physical education and athletics is an integral department of campus and student life, or CSL as we like to call ourselves. It's the unit that is dedicated to ensuring students are prepared for academic, personal, and professional success through their engagement in rigorous, diverse, fun, and creative community activities of learning. We work very hard to foster a welcoming and supportive community that enriches the lives of our students, staff, and our faculty members, whether they're hanging out in a house lounge, attending a speaker event at the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs, or competing in SCAV. Recreation and athletics are foundational in the university's overall efforts to build that community and to enhance student opportunities to develop the skills they'll need to be successful communicators, team members, and leaders in the future. Through their participation in athletics, students have a chance to work collaboratively with others, develop healthy living habits, and challenge their physical and mental limitations. And I must say that each day I'm impressed by what our student athletes achieve, not only in their respective sports, but in the classroom, in the lab, and in all the activities they participate in at the university. As we prepare to welcome our newest members to the Hall of Fame, I want to applaud each of our inductees for their accomplishments and contributions to intercollegiate athletics. You have excelled, you have achieved, and it's my hope that you'll inspire the current generation of Maroons as well as those yet to come. Thank you all, and congratulations as you join our elite group of athletic alumni.
Tom Weingartner, report to your chair. Just kidding, you can chat if you'd like. But so continue enjoying your meals. We're going to continue on with the program. and I'm going to bring up who is our actual Master of Ceremonies and the other honored guest that we have with us tonight. Lester Munson has served as the Master of Ceremonies for each of our now 12 induction ceremonies. Lester Munson earned his JD from the University of Chicago in 1967. After several years in politics and in law, Lester he then entered the field of investigative and legal affairs reporting. He served on the staff of Sports Illustrated and is now a writer, producer, and legal analyst for ESPN and ESPN.com. He is a frequent commentator on NPR, PBS, and other broadcast outlets. Lester's current assignments are focused on the current litigation and legislation affecting mainly Division I NCAA members and the recent NFL player criminal and team suspension cases. Please welcome our Master of Ceremonies, Lester Munson.
It is always a joy for me to be involved in the University Hall of Fame induction. As you could tell from Aaron's introduction, I spend a lot of my time on the dark side of sports. If somebody is in trouble, that is my assignment at ESPN. I've been spending my time with Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson, Oscar Pistorius, Aaron Hernandez, and others of that ilk. It is just pure oxygen for me to be able to be involved here with the university, with the superb student athletes whom we will be inducting tonight. Although I do work on the dark side of sports, I do have an awful lot of fun doing this. I think there probably is something wrong with me rooting around in all this trouble and enjoying it so much. There is, however, considerable happiness in the world of sports. We do have some things that are going right. You may have noticed in Erin's remarks that she said, I covered the trouble in Division I of the NCAA, and that's exactly what I do. It's a very important distinction to be made. And then I spend a lot of time working in various misdemeanors and felonies and all sorts of things involving professional athletes. I want to share one story with you before we get into the more serious part of the program, and that is a story about one of my favorite teams as somebody who has lived in Chicago all his life, and that is the 1985 Chicago Bears. This was perhaps the greatest team in the history of the National Football League. We at ESPN did a study of the NFL a few years ago and concluded that yes, it was the greatest team. This is a team that had Walter Payton, Jim McMahon, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, and all sorts of wonderful characters. They even had a guy from Yale by the name of Gary Fensick. And they made it to the Super Bowl. They made it to the Super Bowl in fantastic fashion. They won their first two playoff games with shutouts. It's never been done before. They outscored the Giants and the Rams 45-0. And they came to New Orleans to play the New England Patriots. Mike Ditka, the coach, left nothing to chance, and he decided that before the Super Bowl game, there should be a team prayer. A team prayer. He thought this might help. It wasn't enough that he had won 15 of 16 games and had shut out the two previous opponents. And so he announced to the team that there would be a prayer and that their star rookie, William Refrigerator Perry, would lead the team in the Lord's Prayer. Jim McMahon, the quarterback, looked up and he said, wait a minute. Fridge doesn't even know the Lord's Prayer. He's talking to Richard Dent, the great pass rusher, and Dent says, I have faith in William Perry. I know he knows the Lord's Prayer. McMahon says, all right, I'm right, you're wrong, we're going to bet $20. McMahon says, I bet $20 that he doesn't know the Lord's Prayer. So the team gathers. It's the last moment before they go out onto the AstroTurf of the Superdome to play the Patriots. William Perry is in front of the team, and he starts the prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep." The place erupts. About a minute later, McMahon is walking over to Richard Dent, and he has $20 in his hand. And somebody says, "Jim, why are you paying Richard Dent?" McMahon says, "I didn't think he knew it." As we gather tonight, Division I sports is at a crossroads. These schools, 120 of them approximately, produce mass spectacles of public entertainment. They do things differently from what we do here at our university. They take in billions of dollars literally in revenue, and none of it ever goes to the players other than their grants and aid, their scholarships. These schools are now finding ways to spend this money. We have coaches' salaries of $6 and $8 million for the head coach, and salaries for the offensive and defensive coordinators in the range of $600,000 to $800,000. They are spending huge money on lavish facilities, and as all this is going on, we have numerous scandals that have come along as these schools cheat to win and cheat to gain greater revenue. The most recent and the most perhaps disturbing is at the University of North Carolina, a program that we thought was an honest program for many years, and we now have considerable evidence, overwhelming evidence, that athletes there are getting A's and B's for courses that never met. We have in the evidence emails describing what grade each athlete needs to stay eligible. This situation went on from 1993 to 2011, involving more than 3,000 students. Most of the students were athletes. Some of them were members of fraternities who heard how easy it was to get these grades and joined in the fun. But with litigation, legislation, and labor activism now in force, we can expect major changes in Division I sports. This all began with a terrific article in The Atlantic by one of America's great journalists, Taylor Branch. I recommend it to you. It was in The Atlantic a couple of years ago and was called "The Shame of College Sports," emphasizing again, this is Division I, not what we do here. Just as an example of what goes on, early on Tuesday morning, January 28th, 2014, the coach of the Northwestern football team, Pat Fitzgerald, was at the airport getting ready to go on a trip to recruit a young linebacker. He's the head coach at Northwestern. His salary is $2.8 million per year. He has 85 athletes on scholarship on his team, as well as 24 walk-ons. His staff includes 10 assistant coaches, 4 strength coaches, and 5 more people who work in the football office. His telephone rang as he waited to get on the plane, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was his quarterback, Kane Coulter, calling him. Kane Coulter had news that may change the world of sports. He told the coach that 80 of the 85 players had signed cards requesting that the National Labor Relations Board hold an election to determine whether these players could form a union on their football team. Incredibly, these 80 young men did all of this without any of the coaches, anybody on the staff knowing that they were doing this. These are young men between the ages of 18 and 22. They somehow pulled this off, and it took Fitzgerald completely by surprise. He canceled the trip, and I understand that linebacker will not be coming to Northwestern. I'm not picking on Northwestern just because we were in their room down there earlier tonight. Did you notice that? The purple seal on the wall and all those pictures of Northwestern buildings. But these young men, well educated at Northwestern, wanted a voice in their practice schedules. They wanted better health insurance. They wanted to take courses that they would select, not courses that the coaches would select to comply with practice schedules. And Coulter, for example, came to school as a pre-med. He found that because of football, he could not take the chemistry courses that were necessary, and he had to change his major. But all of that is now at the National Labor Relations Board in Washington. We'll get a decision on whether they can have their union sometime in the next few weeks. The players did win the first hearing before the National Labor Relations Board here in Chicago. But here at the University of Chicago, we are involved in a different kind of sports program. It is a program that many of the Division I schools may consider if they find themselves paying players and negotiating with a union of their athletes. Scholars who study college sports agree that Division III is the model. It is the one thing that works. William Bowen, who has done most of the serious writing on this, views Division III as practiced in our conference as the ideal. It is a comprehensive program. It is a competitive program. It features all that is good in college sports and nothing that is bad. Our student athletes are both students and athletes. When they graduate from this university, which they all do, they are educated men and women. They have achieved in their years here at our university what David Brooks, the great New York Times columnist and a devoted alumnus of this university, calls epistemological modesty. Did you hear that? Epistemological modesty. There's going to be a quiz. I'm warning you right now. You may want to remember epistemological modesty. Our student athletes understand the limits and the validity of knowledge, and they are ready to undertake tasks that will make the world a better place. Our athletes participate in the single largest department and the largest enterprise on our campus. There are 500 approximately varsity athletes in 19 different sports, 300 men, 200 women. They play 330 varsity games against other schools each year. In addition to that, and Michelle mentioned part of this, the 7,500 people participate in intramural sports at the university. Some of them are counted twice because they play more than one sport. We have 752 teams in intramural sports playing 2,200 intramural contests. The Ratner Center and the Crown Fieldhouse, nearly 600,000 people come and go from these buildings in a single year. That is the program that we have here. It is the ideal of college sports, and it seems to get better each year. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you the aforementioned Brian Baldea. We have played baseball at this university for 122 years. He is the winningest coach in that long history. 411 wins, 377 losses. That is a winning percentage of .521. We who are Cub fans would hire him in a minute. We have not had a manager above 500 for 6 years. He had 9 seasons of 20 wins. After finishing his career as the baseball coach, as Aaron mentioned, he is now the Associate Athletic Director. He's responsible for strategic initiatives, alumni relations, professional development of the coaching staff, enrichment programs for student athletes. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Baldea.
Thank you, Lester. The university lost a very special alum and a very special friend this past year, and we would just like to take a few minutes to remember him and celebrate his life. Gerald Ratner passed away at his home in Chicago on June 20th at the age of 100 years. A lifelong Chicagoan, Jerry grew up in the Bridgeport neighborhood with 2 siblings in a 1-bedroom apartment behind the small market that his mother ran. Gerald's father left the family when Jerry was 5 years old, but he persevered, and he became valedictorian of his Marshall High School graduating class. He earned a full tuition scholarship to the University of Chicago, which he told me at the time was worth about $300 a year. And he made the baseball team as a switch-hitting outfielder. He graduated from the college in 1935, from the law school 2 years later. After serving as a United States Army military policeman stationed in Casablanca during World War II, he partnered with his friend and former law school classmate, Benjamin Gould, to form a law firm that now has 50-plus lawyers. He was known to work long hours throughout his career, and he remained a presence at his law office every day until he was 99 years old. Most of us know Jerry as a generous benefactor who gave to the university to endow a law school professorship and to fund a gallery at the Smart Museum in the name of his late wife Eunice, and also to build the magnificent athletic facility on our campus right now that bears his name. Jerry would say that he felt obligated to give back to the university that gave him so much. Many of my baseball alums also know Jerry as the man who wanted to have dinner with them during their senior years to talk about their achievements, their plans for the future, and baseball. When we tried to honor Jerry and celebrate his 100th birthday with a ceremony with friends from the athletic department, he asked me not to do it. He didn't want the attention. Unusual for a lawyer. Unusual, generous, remarkable, unassuming, and most importantly, a man whose contributions have given and will continue to give students at the University of Chicago, and particularly student athletes, a tremendous experience. That was Gerald Ratner. May he rest in peace.
And now we will begin the induction of this year's honorees to the University of Chicago Hall of Fame. This year we honor people who have excelled in track and field, including the decathlon, a three-sport athlete, volleyball, men's basketball, women's basketball, football, and baseball. 4 of them played multiple sports. 7 were All-Americans. There were a total of 27 all-conference honors in the UAA. There was 1 Big Ten championship when we go back to that era. We had 1 UAA Rookie of the Year in this group. We have a UAA Player of the Year, and we have 3 UAA Team Championships that were earned during the careers of these honorees. As we sit here tonight, they hold 14 individual all-time university records. What have they done since graduation? We have a Hall of Fame coach. We have a landscape designer who specializes in green buildings. We have an educator who founded an academics games league that has spread throughout the nation. We have a law enforcement officer. We have a physician who is doing a residency in radiology. We have a director of medical education at the Pritzker School of Medicine here at the university. We have a financial advisor at UBS Global Asset Management. And we have a teacher and a musician. Our procedure is that we're going to have a video that will describe to you the achievements of each of our honorees, and then the honoree will be able to come up here and express their whatever observations they choose to make about the university and the Hall of Fame and anything else in the whole world, but it's limited to 2 minutes. Our first honoree is Jim Hayden of the class of 1970. His specialty was the decathlon. For those of you who do not keep track of these things, the decathlon is 10 events: the 100-meter, the 400-meter, the 1,500-meter runs, 110-meter high hurdles, the javelin, the discus, the shot put, the pole vault, the high jump, and the long jump. Now, either Jim was one of the great athletes of all time, or he simply could not make up his mind what he wanted to do in track. His father is in our Hall of Fame, Ted Hayden, the legendary track coach, the founder and leader of the University of Chicago Track Club. Most of you know about him. Okay, Nathan, where are you? Let's start the video on Jim Hayden.
Jim Hayden excelled as a decathlete for the Maroons in the men's track and field. He finished 6th in the decathlon at the USTFF National Championships in 1971 and followed it up with a 4th place showing in 1972. Upon graduation, Hayden ranked 1st in school history in the 110-meter hurdles, 2nd in the 400-meter hurdles, and 3rd in the shot put. He still ranks in the University of Chicago's top 10 in all 3 categories. Hayden was also a 2-time Bond Medal winner in 1968 and 1969.
Well, Jim started in school here just before I came back to be on the faculty. And the school was quite a bit different then. It was only about half as big as it is now. And that was very turbulent times there with the late 60s and early 70s. And so I don't know what it was really like to be an undergraduate in those days. But all in all, Jim, just as far as track and field, what I ever saw of him, he just took everything with sort of equanimity and just did his job. And he did an excellent job. He was excellent in certain events, pole vault, hurdles, and his really best event was the decathlon, but that wasn't an NCAA event in those days, so we never got to see him do it, that is, the local people. He only got to do it in the United States national meets, and he established himself there as one of the leading decathlon guys. And because of that kind of wide-ranging ability, he covered a lot of events and track meets. Since with a smaller school, we had less opportunity. We had, well, more opportunities for people to run different events, you might say, for better or for worse. And so he always did what was needed to be done. His father was the track coach, which for some people would have been probably a hard situation for both of them probably, but not for them. They just got along calmly and no problems. And all in all, he was just an extremely good athlete and a very nice guy.
Help me welcome Jim Hayden.
I just have a few spontaneous remarks written down here. This is an amazing evening for me. I've seen so many people that I haven't seen in so many years, and it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Pat, for taking time out of your busy schedule to film that intro, and thank you for your years of hard work making the University of Chicago Track Club what it is today. I wish my dad could see all that you've accomplished. He'd be proud of the Track Club's continuing expanding contribution to the athletes and the community. I want to thank the members of my family, Casey, Mary, and Diane, for traveling so far for this ceremony, and my good friends Ken and Jennifer Guy and Jim and Judy Cottingham for coming here to share this evening, and now Mike and John are here too. It's wonderful. And thank you to Kimberly Grash and Nathan Lindquist for all of your hard work to make this evening and weekend a great success. I know it's a lot of work. Growing up, I was fortunate enough to watch coaches like Kyle Anderson and Joe Stamp at work, and to see the historic contributions that Mary Jean Mulvaney and Wally Haas made to the University of Chicago athletics. Many members of my family participated in U of C sports over the years. My wife's grandfather, J.B. Canning, was an assistant coach to Amos Alonzo Stagg and a player on the 1913 National Championship football team. So it goes back pretty far. My wife is wearing his football tonight. And today it's inspiring to follow the impressive accomplishments of Aaron McDermott and the great staff, members, coaches, and athletes who make up the present-day University Athletic Program. On behalf of our family members and all of the students who have attended the University of Chicago over the years, thank you for the opportunity to have a world-class education and the chance for all of us to reach our full potential as athletes. I also want to thank the university and the athletic department for opening its facilities to the community and understanding the importance of athletics in the larger world. It's very humbling to have my name added to the University of Chicago Athletic Hall of Fame. A lot of people in there that I respected all my life. Thank you again for this great honor, wonderful evening. I'm looking forward to a victory on the gridiron tomorrow and another great day of meeting friends and celebration. Thank you very much.
If you're an honoree in this Hall of Fame, you get to take the plaque home. This is a big operation. The Hall of Fame itself is in the Ratner Center, and it actually is a hall. You walk down the hall, and all the plaques are there on the walls. Go see it while you are here. I hope you noticed Professor Palmer in the video using the word equanimity. That's going to be on the quiz also. And that story about the bears may be apocryphal. Apocryphal. Take notes, folks. This is the University of Chicago. Our next honoree is Tony Hinkle. Each year, I wonder how these honorees were not in the first class that we put into the Hall of Fame. Both Jim and Tony and the rest, it's incredible that we have groups like we have each year. Tony Hinkle starred in 3 sports here. You're going to hear about that in the video. He then coached at Butler University for 41 years. He coached 3 sports. If you rank all the coaches who coach 3 sports, he's in the top 3. He is already a member of 4 different Halls of Fame, so we're actually a little late with this guy. And their field house at Butler University is the famous Hinkle Field House, named for him. It is a mecca, a cathedral of college basketball. So let's see the video on Tony Hinkle.
Tony Hinkle was a 3-sport athlete in men's basketball, football, and baseball. As a basketball player, he was picked as a Helms All-American in 1919 and 1920. Hinkle was part of the 1919-20 basketball team that went 27-8 and won the Western Conference title. The Western Conference later changed its name to the Big Ten Conference. Professionally, he went on to be a successful 3-sport coach at Butler University and was selected to the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 1965.
My name is Paul Mason, and I've been asked to talk about my grandfather, Paul D. Tony Hinkle. Mr. Hinkle was born in 1899 and died in 1992. Mr. Hinkle attended the University of Chicago from 1917 to 1920. His major was oil geology, but his love was sports. He lettered in 3 college sports: basketball, football, and baseball. In baseball, he played outfield, shortstop, and pitcher. He was known as one of the best spitball pitchers in the conference. In basketball, he was named All-American in 1919 and 1920. He was known as a shooting guard, being one of the best outside shooters in the country. In his playing days, he was coached by Pat Page and Alonzo Staggs. They instilled in him integrity, sportsmanship, and discipline and character. He took these lessons and values to his family and his career. Mr. Hinkle became one of the best coaches in America at the college level. He coached all 3 sports in college and instilled the same values that he learned at the University of Chicago. His greatest achievements was molding young men into strong, productive men in their communities. I was part of that team. I learned these lessons from the time I could walk to the day he died. The basketball court was my daycare. The football field was my playground. And the baseball diamond was my sandbox. At age 5, I was able to sit and support the teams on basketball, football, and baseball. I didn't realize what he was doing at the time, but he was instilling the same values he was teaching his players. So it's an honor for my family that you are recognizing him for the accomplishments at both the University of Chicago and his career. Thank you very much.
The grandson that you heard on the video is unable to be with us tonight, nor could Tony Hinkle's daughter, but we are fortunate to have accepting for the Hinkle family Corey McFerrin, a good friend and one of the great talents in Chicago television, a sports reporter, a sports anchor, and now the host of a Good Day Chicago on Fox here in Chicago. He's a former member of the Board of Trustees at Butler University. Corey.
It is a tremendous honor to be here in so many ways. First off, I have to say, I've been a big fan of the University of Chicago my entire life, growing up here in the south suburbs. I remember my dad telling me, who grew up in the south side of the city, he used to tell stories about this guy, this Jay Berwanger guy, who played at the University of Chicago and won the Heisman Trophy. And as a kid in the 60s, thinking of the University of Chicago and the Heisman Trophy, I didn't get it. Like, how did that happen, Dad? But that was my first introduction to the University of Chicago. And since I've come back here to broadcast since '91, I've had great experiences at every level dealing with anybody from the University of Chicago. As far as Tony Hinkle is concerned, I was fortunate enough to go to college at Butler in the mid-'70s. And I will never forget, I'm a sophomore in college. I'm a radio TV journalism major, and I'm working for the college newspaper, the esteemed Butler Collegian. And my assignment this week is do a story on Hinkle Fieldhouse, the history of the Fieldhouse. So I'm a fairly bright guy, and I figure, well, maybe I should talk to the guy for whom the Fieldhouse is named. Maybe that'd be a starting point. So I go to Tony's office. Tony is not coaching anymore. He's now a special assistant to the president. I walk in, I sit down, I said, Mr. Hinkle, talk to me a little bit about the Fieldhouse and its history. And the phone rings. And he says, I'm sorry, young man, I need to take this call. He grabs the phone, and he was very nice, and he was obviously a friend, and he said, listen, I got to call you back. There's a young visitor here that I need to talk to. He hangs up the phone and looks directly at me and says, I guess Johnny Wooden will wait. What do you want to know? That was my first clue I was dealing with a big-time guy. Johnny Wooden is to UCLA what Tony Hinkle is to Butler. This guy, and I know his grandson touched on several things in his comments a moment ago, but one factoid I want to get out, and this is just unbelievable, but Amos Alonzo Stagg did a great job with Tony Hinkle because he left Chicago and went to Indianapolis in 1921. And here's the thing. From 1921, he was an assistant coach initially, became a head coach a little bit later on. But from 1921, except for a 3-year period during World War II when he was a naval officer, Tony Hinkle served Butler University as a coach, a teacher, or an administrator until he died in 1992. That is 71 years. Have you ever heard of that? It's got to be a record. His grandson described the idea that it wasn't just basketball. The guy coached football and baseball, 3 sports year after year after year. He had over 1,000 wins in his career coaching. It's mind-boggling to think about it. And another coach from the great state of Indiana, a guy by the name of Bobby Knight, once said, and I quote, "Tony Hinkle may well be the most remarkable coach in American collegiate athletic history." Grab that. And by the way, Tony invented the orange basketball. Google it when you get home. It's a long story. But he's the guy responsible for the orange basketball. In closing, here's the thing. Tony Hinkle developed a culture and a tradition at my university that we are all so proud of. And he shaped it like few other coaches have ever shaped a university and an athletic program. And for that, we are so proud. And I close by suggesting, those of you who have the opportunity, next Saturday, some of you may know this, some may not, but the University of Chicago basketball team is traveling down I-65 to play the Butler Bulldogs tomorrow night at a week from tomorrow night at Hinkle Fieldhouse. So do yourself a favor, get down there, cheer on the Maroons, who should be within 30 by halftime, I think. Sorry, Coach McGrath. And honor your Hall of Famer and ours, and enjoy basketball at the Indiana Basketball Cathedral, Hinkle Fieldhouse, a National Historic Monument that has just undergone a $35 million refurbishment and is, in my opinion, the best place in America to watch college basketball. Thank you so much for this honor on behalf of the Hinkle family at Butler University.
Corey, you mentioned Jay Berwanger, our own legendary football player, Heisman Trophy winner. He was a member of this club for literally 50 years. Why were we not in the Jay Berwanger room for our gathering earlier and in the Northwestern room? I know the answer to that question. The Jay Berwanger material in this club is up on the 11th floor. It's there in the squash courts. We'd be there with a group of sweaty guys who are beating each other up inside a glass enclosed court. The Hinkle Fieldhouse, for those of you who may not have heard of it until tonight, is the field house that was one of the stars of the movie Hoosiers. That's where the guys played the final game of that great sports movie. Our next honoree is Kelly Humphrey. She plays the sport of volleyball. For those of you who are not familiar with this wonderful sport, there are some things about Kelly that you will hear in the video and might need just a syllable of explanation. She was a master of the jump serve. Unless you are a superb athlete, you can't even conceive of doing this. You toss the ball in the air, you then leap into the air and crash the ball down on the hapless opponents on the other side of the net. She mastered this in a matter of minutes. She was such a great talent. And this is another quiz phrase. In volleyball, there is something called the attack percentage. It is kills minus errors divided by attempts. I don't see any of you making notes on this. I think you better try to remember this. Kelly's attack percentage was .315. That is like batting 400 or even 450 in baseball. That's how good she was as a volleyball player. Let's see the video on Kelly, please.
Kelly Humphrey competed in both volleyball and women's basketball in the mid-1990s. As a volleyball player, she was named second team All-UAA in 1993 and 1996. Her name litters the school record books, including #1 in service aces with 343, #7 in kills with 1,054. She's third in attack percentage at 315, and #3 in solo blocks with 122. Humphrey also averaged 8.5 points per game and 5.5 rebounds per game on the basketball court for the Maroons.
Good evening, everyone. My first thought when I was asked to do a video introduction for Kelly was that I hoped she would be in the room when I started my remarks. Outside of the competitive arena, my most vivid memory of Kelly was sitting on the bus or in a van after a match, waiting patiently, and sometimes not so patiently, for Kelly to emerge from the locker room. During her career, I am not sure if anyone was slower than Kelly after a game. Fortunately, this lack of quickness was never a problem on the volleyball court. Great athletes have many gifts and qualities: speed, quickness, jumping ability, eye-hand coordination, perseverance, a powerful work ethic, a will to win, self-confidence, drive, focus. All of these years' inductees possess these qualities and gifts and more, but the two special gifts that Kelly brought to the gym were a great natural ability and an awareness of where both her teammates and her competitors were on the court. In the mid-1990s, when Kelly was competing, the jump serve was relatively new to women's volleyball. I knew that it could be a powerful weapon, and I also knew that we needed to learn how to defend this weapon when it was used against us. At the beginning of preseason practice, I patiently went through the skill, demonstrating the toss, approach, and contact, and the team started working on the learning progression. That is, everyone but Kelly. She took a ball, tossed it in the air, jumped, and nailed a perfect serve that dropped within inches of the opposite inline. She proceeded to terrorize opposing teams for the remainder of her career, and she still holds the record for the most service aces in her career. Kelly also had this great sense of space and managed to be at the right place at the right time. Her teammates would occasionally need to keep her in correct rotation order or help her avoid an illegal overlap during service or serve reception. One of her setters had this to say: "I remember her not knowing sometimes where she was supposed to be on the court, but she would always come out of nowhere to hit the crap out of whatever I put up there." Kelly was about power on the court as a server, hitter, and blocker, but she also saw the court extremely well. So, with the entire opposing team back on their heels waiting for a booming attack, Kelly would roll or tip the ball and freeze the opponents for another point. Kelly would usually start at the front row so that I could unleash her attack and block early in the game. I would always be amused to see the initial relief on the faces of opposing coaches and teams when Kelly would rotate to the backcourt out of the attacking position. Then they would see her jump, serve, and score an ace, and they started to wish that she was still in the front court. When the season was over, I then was able to enjoy watching her compete on the basketball court, and I was able to strategize with her basketball coach about a plan to get her out of the locker room a little faster. We never succeeded in that endeavor. Kelly, I'm so pleased that you are receiving this recognition. I loved coaching, and you were one of the many great student athletes who I cherish to this day. Congratulations.
Did you like that bear on the wall behind Rosie? That's not going to be on the quiz. That's an Olympics poster. Kelly Humphrey.
What will I say? Unlike the legends before me, I brought an iPhone for my notes. If I could do anything to visualize, if you could visualize the gratitude spilling out of me, when I first got word that I received this award, it was all humble pie, because if anyone should be standing up here, it's my teammates with me on the basketball and volleyball team, because everyone here knows, who knows me, that it took a village to get me through college and through sports too. And it really is true that my volleyball teammates would have signs behind their back with their fingers for me to point, like, you go this way this time. So people really did help me a lot, and where to go and where to be on the court, and that was extremely important. But I've come a long way. But I just wanted to say, when I first thought about coming to University of Chicago, it was big stuff for me. I grew up on a farm in a very, very tiny town. My parents remortgaged their house to pay for my college. And it was so very meaningful for me. And And amazingly, tonight, the first person that I saw was Professor Palmer, and he was my professor in college for a class, Comets and Asteroids. And that was a wonderful class, and it was so nice to see him and talk to him, and I can't believe that he remembered me. And actually just moving recently, I read one of my old papers from that class, and I feel so bad, Professor Palmer. I can do a much better job, and I still have your book on my bookshelf, and I actually read it sometimes, and I just so valued that class and many other classes at this university. It was amazing. Erin Hamilton Spence is here, my first roommate when I came for preseason in volleyball, and I remember she had written Katzenjammer Kelly on the door of my dorm, and I thought, what's Katzenjammer mean? I don't know if I did as well on the SAT verbal, and here I am at the school, and it was always been a great friend, and my basketball friends over here as well. I just want to say thank you so much for putting up with me. The last thing I'd like to say is that no one's talked about the UAA much tonight, and I just wanted to express to the university how important that was for me to be a part of that conference, because it wasn't just the University of Chicago that was important, but I got to know players at NYU and Brandeis, and I did not get to know many players at Washington. But I always thought it was so cool to hang out with the NYU girls at the volleyball tournaments, and I thought, what cooler thing, the Chicago girls and the NYU women hanging out after the games. That was really important to me. So just thank you, everyone, for this award. I don't feel that I'm deserving, but it's a really great opportunity to say how happy I was and proud that I was able to compete in sports here, and that this university values the mind and the body experience together, because for me it was a form of meditation and a form of focus, and really saved me and helped get me through college. So thank you so much.
Our next honoree is Larry Liss, class of 1963, a superb basketball player, as you're going to see in the video. He is the third individual from that team to make it into the Hall of Fame, which I think is going to be a record that will be unmatched. There's only 5 in a starting lineup in basketball, for those of you who are not aware of that. He also received an alumni award in 2013 for his achievements in the world of education. He developed a game that has spread throughout the nation, a fascinating game. I did some research on it, and I know one thing: I would never succeed in that game. It's way too complicated for me. But let's have the video then on Larry Liss.
Larry Liss was a guard in the Maroon men's basketball team that posted the school's best 4-year winning percentage since the Maroons' 1911-12 season. Liss spearheaded the team to a cumulative record of 64-20, a .762 winning percentage. His best statistical season came during his junior campaign in 1961-62, when he averaged 12.9 points per game and shot over 89% from the free throw line. Liss currently ranks number 2 in school history in career free throw percentage at 81.7%.
Hi, I'm Mike Winter, class of '63, and a teammate, classmate, and friend of Larry Liss. I might humbly point out that the class of '63 is the only class that has 3 Hall of Famers from one team. It's a great pleasure and honor to introduce Larry Liss as a new member of the Athletics Hall of Fame. Larry's UC basketball career began in September of '59. 7 or 8 freshmen, all of whom hardly knew each other, went over to Ray School, an unlikely place to play, and we played basketball between placement tests during orientation. And it was obvious then that Larry was a great player. Also, the 7 or 8 of us who played then are still friends now. In November '59, varsity basketball practice started. It was a great team, tremendous depth, a brilliant, forceful coach, 3 great seniors. Larry was immediately able to be an effective player within that group. I want to take you to a game in that year. The Maroons had won 19 in a row, and we were playing Dubuque University. Unfortunately, we were losing, and we were having trouble getting the ball across half court. Larry came in, took care of the trouble with half court, made some shots, assisted on some other shots. We got the lead back. He sat down. 2 or 3 minutes later, we were behind again. Larry went back into the game, and UC won the game. A great achievement. I've been to at least 1 game of the Maroons every year since 1957. Larry Liss is the finest ball handler I've seen during that time. He's a point and a shooting guard, and he's good at both aspects. There are some missing statistics from that period. No one kept track of steals, assists, and turnovers, and those were all very strong parts of Larry's game. Also, there were 2 parts of the game that didn't exist at all: the 3-point shot and the 35-second limit when you had to take a shot. And Larry's ball handling abilities would have been terrific with that, and he would have made plenty of 3-pointers. Larry was always excellent against major college opponents who we played once or twice a year: Detroit, Bradley, and Drake, and it was a thrill to see him play in that area. Larry had great drive and competitiveness. Take no prisoners. And you didn't want to play against him either, just like our opponents didn't want to play against him. He improved every year, always had some new skills when he came back from summer vacation. Larry loved to play, and the best indicator of this is he played for more than 10 years in high-level organized basketball in the Chicago area, played with the Jamico Saints, a very well-known team, and then he played beyond that in organized basketball into his early 50s. Larry's intense. Oh, he's intense. A good example of that is in golf. Take a ride to Crown Point, Indiana, to Larry's favorite golf course, and look at the bottom of the lake. You'll see an assortment of at least 12 golf clubs, some in 2 pieces, sitting there. He was intense. Last year, he was honored for work he did in the 50 years since he's been on campus. Larry was the founder and the leader and a participant in academic games competition. Over 100,000 high school and grammar school students have participated over the 30, 40 years that Larry's been doing this, and it's been a great contribution to the community. So Larry, last year you were awarded the Alumni Award. This year it's the Hall of Fame. Next year, should we expect to be in Oslo? Congratulations, Larry. You've inspired us and thrilled us. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Liss. There you are, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, Lester. And thanks for all the nice comments about me. But I really want to make tonight about our teams, because that was the special part of what happened while I was here at the university. It started out in the early 50s, and the university's basketball program at that time could best be described as, I think it got all the way up to pathetic. They were the 7 years in a row in the early 50s. Their average winning percentage was 22%, and they had 2 seasons where they didn't win a single game. But as it got to the end of the 50s, they got a new coach, which we'll mention a little bit later. He's in the Hall of Fame right now as well. And in the 1958-59 season, they had some good players, and at one point they were only 6-6. But then they gelled, and they won the last 7 games of that season. And that's going to be a part of the story in a second as well. And when they won those 7 games, almost every player on that team was coming back for the next season. One guy had to lay out because he was entering law school, even though he still had undergraduate eligibility left. And so there was room for maybe one player on that team. But in that fall of 1959, as was mentioned partly, 6 of us came in as basketball players. None of us were recruited by the university. There was no such thing, but we all just wanted a good education. But we were all top players from our team, and we had another sophomore transfer in, and now you got 16 players vying for to play on the varsity team. And I'll tell you what, practices were vicious. Practices were vicious because we're all trying to win it, and playing time was cherished. It was incredibly cherished. And we started the season by winning 13 straight games. 20 in a row from the 7 before that. We got Sports Illustrated. Now this is the real Sports Illustrated. Wrote a story about the University of Chicago. Says, what in the world is happening there at the University of Chicago? But they only heard part of the story. Because we had 16 players, the athletic director and the coach on the side scheduled 5 other games. You're never going to see them in the schedule ever. But they were small colleges here in the Chicagoland area. We even went over into Indiana and played Purdue University, Calumet Extension. And we won all 5 of those as well. And that was without the starting lineup, because the coach wouldn't play the starting lineup in those games. So all of us figured, some of us figured that we would never lose a game. We're going to go right through college and win every single game. And of course, that didn't happen, of course. In fact, we lost the next game, went to Wayne State up in Detroit, and lost by 4 points only. A good game. It was on their home court, on our home court. We probably would have beaten them, but we didn't. We rattled off 3 more wins. Now, remember, they were lousy in the early 50s. We were now 16-1. And the coach then did something that we have to this day. None of us has any understanding why he did it. He decided to somehow break up that pattern, and he only played 7 guys the rest of the season. One of them was an understandable loss because we were playing Army at West Point about the time Krzyzewski was there, and they beat us. That was legitimate. They were better. But actually lost 3 of the final 5 games of that season when most of us were sitting and watching. But it was still 18-4 record, best season in the history of the university since all the way back in the early 1900s, when they were still doing, some of you may have read about this, they were still doing the jump ball at center court after every made basket. Okay? So we're going into the next season. We just lost our 3 best frontline players, excellent players, 2 of whom are in the Hall of Fame, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But we just kind of reloaded. We found another 6'8" center on campus. The guy from law school came back and joined us. And we figured we were just going to rattle off a whole bunch of additional victories. And after 4 games, we were 2-2. Both games that we lost were decided in the last 5 seconds. Both of them on charging calls. Both of the charging calls went against us, including at where we got a job up in Rochester. Those of you who have ever been to Rochester to play basketball know that. Okay, so we're all messed up. The coach didn't know who to play. We had 15 good players on the team. He didn't know how to work that out, and we were kind of disorganized. And then, with all that, the bottom fell out. The bottom fell out when we're all confused. The 6'8" center was caught smoking by the coach on the way back in the airport from Rochester, and he got kicked off the team on the spot. One of the starting guards from the previous year came back to find out he was academically ineligible, along with one of our other teammates at that point. The other starting guard from the previous year decided if he couldn't start this year because a couple of them had beat him out, he was going to quit, and he did. So we go from 15 players down to 10. Sometimes we couldn't even practice because some people actually went to class, Lester, and they actually took tests when they were supposed to take tests. And so we couldn't do that. And what are we going to do? I mean, here we lost the entire starting lineup from the previous year, the 3 good senior frontliners, the 2 guards were flustered. We have 16 games left on our schedule. And we won them all. And we won them all. Unbelievable. Except one. And that was kind of understandable because it was the University of Detroit. In Detroit, they were ranked number 4 in Division I at the time. You'll see that we played many Division I games at that time, even though we only had, I think, 1,600 students in the college. So in that game, and they had a guy that maybe some of you have heard of before. His name was Dave DeBuscher. He was the consensus All-American player, went on to play for the New York Knicks, of course, helped them win an NBA championship, and was voted at one point, or was voted at one of the top 50 players of all time in the NBA. So we lost that, but we ended up the season 17-3, and who comes a courting? Now this is, again, it was the NCAA. Let me tell you about the NCAA at that time. There were 2 divisions only in the NCAA back in 1961. One was, they called it the University Division, and it's basically Division I as we know them today. Okay? Every other team, NCAA team in the country, was in the same division. There was no Division II, no Division III. We were all together. There was maybe 150, 170 teams. And only 32, not 64 teams made the NCAA tournament. The University of Chicago was one of them, an incredible feat. And they even gave us our home court. We had the Great Lakes region. We got a region, one of the 8 regions. And there was a little story on that one because the number 1 team in the country had won. They were the defending national champions, was Evansville, Indiana. And they were voted, and they were ranked number 1 the entire season. And what they did, they couldn't give them their own region because they were hosting the finals, okay? So what did they do? They shipped them off to the University of Chicago, where they knew they were going to come out of that region, no doubt about it, with the qualities they had to play. So Evansville gets scheduled against this team from Missouri. We get the second game, and the first game, we watched the first half, and it was incredible. They were playing games we didn't even know about, didn't even understand. They were going up and down. The final score, it's not official, but I'm within 1 or 2 points, was 94-92. So we're going up to play our game in the second half. We learned that score, and we're all flabbergasted. Even more flabbergasted was the number 1 team in the country had gotten beaten by Lincoln, Missouri. So they're knocked out. We played the second game, journeyman game, like we always did. Very good game, 64-59. We're going into the finals against this Missouri team, and everybody, our parents, our friends, spectators were saying, nice season, you guys, great season, but they're going to kill you. I mean, they play a game that you don't even understand. But we decided to play anyway. Okay, and we figured might as well show up for the finals, and so we did. And they didn't overwhelm us. As a matter of fact, we overwhelmed them. As a matter of fact, we embarrassed them. As a matter of fact, we toyed with them the last 3 minutes of the game. And the team that had beaten the number 1 team in the country, scoring 94 points the night before, we beat them 55-42. Yes, we could play defense. So we of course are going down. But here's a great story. We're going down to play in the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament. A feat that's never been done except one other time in the university. Never been beaten. Okay, only one other time as a University of Chicago team ever made the Elite 8. And that was our season. But after our game on Saturday night in our region, the coach says, guys, don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. This was the end of the quarter on Friday. And next week is test week. That means you have tests Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. If you had any schedule for Thursday or Friday, forget it, because we are going to go to the regional, but you have to get with the umpire. And he says, imagine a coach saying this today. Imagine a coach saying this. He didn't say, you are you are students first and athletes second. He didn't say that, but that's what he meant, because he said, we will not practice. This was Saturday night. We will not practice until we leave on Thursday. So, and that's what he did. We didn't see each other at all. And I'd like to tell you that we overcame all that and won our Elite Eight game, but we were just emotionally drained. We hadn't practiced at all, and we lost our game to a good team. We had two more goods, and that was 19-4. So our record was 19-4, beating the record of the team even before us for the best in a long time in the university. We had two more good seasons as we finished. I'd like to tell you about two of those games. One was against Bradley University down in Peoria. They were ranked number 2 in the United States in Division I. We were actually ahead by 4 points at halftime before they destroyed us. But they did do that. I mean, they had a guy by the name of Chet Walker that some of you may have heard of that played for about 14 years in the NBA and was all NBA many, many times. So those of you who are old enough know him. And then we played the last game our senior year against Detroit again. We played it at their home court. They weren't ranked 4 in the country. They were ranked about 15th in the country. And with 1 minute left to go in the game, we had a 1-point lead and we had the ball. So to show you that we could play against those teams. Unfortunately, a couple of our guys missed free throws and they did beat us. We finished, as Mike said, with a 76% winning record against 4 legitimate Division I teams and a couple of others like Valparaiso and Drake, who would soon become Division I teams. We have 5 of us now in that same 4-year period of time. We have 5 of us in the Athletic Hall of Fame in just 4 years. We have a coach who's in the Athletic Hall of Fame. And besides the 5 of us in the Athletic Hall of Fame, we have 2 others on that team, not among us 5, who won Amos Alonzo Stagg Awards to show that we actually were decent students and not just good athletes. What I'd like to do now, and of course the Hall of Fame coach, I'd like to honor some of these people because what I am is really what they are. And many of them are here today more than 50 years later. So I'd like to honor them, and as I honor them, would you please stand and remain standing till everybody that's been announced. First of all, thanks to 3 guys who entered with me in that fall of 1959 with the 6 freshmen, Larry Costin, Mike Winter, and Merle Lottie. Come on, stand up, guys. Merle's not with us. Yep. Excellent players and good friends. Thanks to the three seniors who mentored us our freshman year. 2 of them who are in the Hall of Fame. Gary Pearson, who was our leading scorer. And by the way, in 4 years, to show that we were a team, in 4 years we had 4 different leading scorers. So Gary was the one in the freshman year, and then help me, Mitchell Watkins. Okay, and in spite of the fact that those 2 guys were Hall of Famers now, and are Hall of Famers now, it was actually the 3rd senior on that team, Clarence Woods, who won the Stagg Award that year. Thank you, John Davey. John, up. Okay. John is the best defensive guard I ever played against or with, and I played for many years after my collegiate career. He was the spearhead and the emotional leader of our 1960-61 team that went to the NCAA, and he was a Stagg Award winner in his own right. And thanks also to Al Devitt. Al, please stand up. Al was a good ball handling, sharp shooting guy, and 3 of us, John and Al and myself, really lamented the fact that those 3-pointers that we were popping in behind the arc all that time only counted for 2 because they had neither in the NBA nor in college basketball had the 3-point shot actually come into being at that time. I'd like to thank our coach. His name was Big Joe. Okay, that's all we ever called him, whether it was behind his back, talking among ourselves, or to him. He was Big Joe because he was bigger than all the rest of us, for one thing. He taught us tremendous basketball, his kind of basketball, tough defense, great, careful offense, and he was a Hall of Famer himself as both a player and a coach. and he's the second winningest basketball coach in the history of the university. And then finally, I'd like to honor the last two guys with whom I played for all 4 years. We were 3-year starters together. All three of us are now in the Hall of Fame. In those 3 years, each one of us was the leading scorer in those years. First one is Joel Siemens. Joel, please stand. Joel was the best player. And leading scorer our sophomore year, NCAA year, and he was a little All-American that year. And then our 6'8" center, who I talked with a lot last week, but he's wasn't able to be here this time, Gene Erickson. And Gene Erickson is still, over 50 years later, has the single season best rebounding record in the history of the university. However, he also has the second best season, and he had the third best season. That guy could really board. He was the leading scorer our senior year, and also was the Stagg Award winner. In fact, the 4 years that we were on campus, our basketball team won 3 of the 4 Stagg Awards. So all of us, each one of us here, and those who couldn't be here tonight, really want to thank the university for giving us the opportunity to get a world-class education that has served us very well in the last 50 years in our careers, while at the same time they challenged us athletically at the very top of the game. And for all of us, both individually but also as members of these teams, it was a great 4-year ride, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Thanks for the memories and the honor.
That class of 1963 is important to us. My wife Judy was in that class, and the one thing that Larry didn't mention in that history of what went on was the fact that she was a cheerleader and was part of all those victories. Next is Wesley McGehee. May we have that video, please?
Wesley McGee starred for the men's track and field and football squads. He owns school records for the 35-pound weight throw and outdoor hammer throw, while also racking up 6 UAA titles between the 2 events. McGee earned All-American honors twice as a field athlete at the NCAA championships, finishing 4th in the indoor weight throw in 1994 and 7th in the outdoor hammer throw in 1992. On the gridiron, McGee was a 3-time All-UAA offensive lineman from 1991 to 1993. He received the 1994 Stagg Medal as a senior.
Wes McGee, congratulations on your induction into the University of Chicago Athletic Hall of Fame. I can't think of a person who's more deserving than you. They're going to talk about your athletic accolades as the evening goes along. I've been asked to talk about you as a person and what you contributed to the team and share some stories. Obviously, your work, your hard dedication, the way you competed, the way you represented the university was exemplary. I still have coaches talking to me at the national championships asking about Wes McGee, what's he doing, how's he doing, what a great athlete he was and what a great person he was. When I think about you, I think about the times of competitions at nationals and at conference. When you were a sophomore, we were at Kobe University. You were a sophomore, we're throwing a hammer. You were the number 21 athlete entered into the meet. Back then we had qualifying rounds, we had prelims, we had finals. You advanced out of the qualifying rounds into the preliminary rounds. You had a personal best. In the prelims, you had a personal best. What I remember most about that, not is the fact that you made All-American, is how you attacked the event. We all know that the hammer is all based on speed, and we talked about just going after it, and you had one throw that was a foul. That was probably one of the biggest throws you ever had. But what I still remember about that is it was about 100 feet out of the sector line. It was just an amazing thing that happened. It's an example that I use to my athletes nowadays as to what you need to do as far as competing and going after it. Another one that comes back to mind is when your senior year at Brandeis, it was conference championships. You're throwing in the 35-pound weight. took 2 spins and stopped in the middle of the throw, and everybody's standing around going, "Oh my goodness, this is disaster." You composed yourself, you thought about what you had to do, and you wound up throwing the winning throw for the competition. Just once again, just exemplifies how you as an athlete were able to focus, take what you learned through practice and put it into a real positive experience. You as a person, you were a great leader. You were somebody that I was able to talk to, and if we had issues within the team, I was able to get you to convey my concerns or my desires for the team, and you got it done. After college, look what you've done. You've gone on to do great things. You're a great husband. You're a great father. You've done phenomenal things in your profession. At this time, it's hard to kind of put in words what it means. It's so integral to me what you did and how we worked with each other. Not only does an athlete learn from a coach, coach learns from the athlete. I've learned so much from you as an athlete and as a person. It's made me a better coach. Once again, I just want to congratulate you on being inducted to the Hall of Fame. You're with many great former athletes at Chicago, guys like Jay Burrowing or Neil Cowie, Derek Brooms. You're in great company, and congratulations.
If you should find yourself in Schenectady, New York, behave. Wesley is a lieutenant in the police department there. Wesley.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I accept induction into the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame with great honor and exceeding appreciation. I am thrilled to be included into this distinguished group. I refer both to those who have been inducted before me and to those who stand here present for induction tonight. The amazing history of our university's athletic program was revealed to me when I first arrived on campus, and I was ushered into the trophy room at Bartlett Gymnasium by then head football coach Greg Quick. There on display were the assorted victory trophies, championship game balls, and the most impressive item, at least in my opinion, the first Heisman Trophy. It gives me great pride to be able to consider my contribution to U of C athletics as part of our fine history. I thank the University of Chicago for this great honor. The school has proven that it can devote itself to maintaining the highest standards of academics in the land and still pay faithful service to the advancement of physical education and the glory of manly sports. I borrowed that last part to the dedication at Bartlett Gym. I thank Coach Quick and his staff, Coach Mike Arishi and his staff, and all my teammates for sharing the amazing experience of college athletics with me for 4 years. Today the records are insignificant, but I fondly remember the great times we had together. I thank the old athletic community, from Mr. Weingartner, the AD, to Mary, Mark, Lisa, and all the training staff, to all the other coaches and student athletes. We all pulled together and supported one another like a family. Thanks to Curtis, Marguerite, and all the Henry Crown and Bartlett staff. Thanks to John Norman for clean uniforms. Thanks to John Norman for clean uniforms and his grouchy friendship. Thank you, Mom and Dad. None of this is possible without you. I love you very much. Finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Bethany Schumann McGee. She wanted to be here, but she remained at home in New York with our 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old children so that I could make a stress-free whirlwind trip back home to Chicago. It is my relationship with her that remains my greatest accomplishment from my time at the University of Chicago. Again, my thanks to you all.
Our next inductee is the greatest wide receiver in the history of this university. That covers a considerable history. Goes all the way back to the Big 10 years and Amos Alonzo Stagg. You will hear the numbers in the video, but let me just emphasize one set of numbers. In a single game against Elmhurst College, September 21, 2001, Jim Raptis caught 17 passes for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns. Unbelievable sports statistics. Those are the best numbers we have had with a Hall of Fame inductee since Kelly Osler went through our induction ceremony with her records, an earned run average that might be the best in the history of the world. In another game against Rose Hulman, he caught a pass that won the game in the final seconds. I talked to his coach about that, Dick Maloney. That route was known as down and out and up. Very sophisticated offense they ran here, down and out and up. But let's have the video then on Jim Raptis.
Jim Raptis made an impact in the University of Chicago's annals in football and baseball. Raptis was a 4-time All-UAA wide receiver who owns program records for most receptions in a game with 17, most receptions in a season with 77, and the most in a career with 214. He also ranked second for receiving yards in a season with 983, and second in career receiving yards with 2,715. On the baseball diamond, Raptis swung a potent bat that led to a top 6 school rankings in 9 categories. He is number 3 in career doubles with 36, 4th in career batting average at 376, and number 5 in career hits with 136.
My name is Arlen Wiley, and I had the honor of playing football with Jim Raptis for 2 years. It is my pleasure to introduce Jim Raptis as an inductee into the 2014 Hall of Fame class. It is without question that Jim had a great career statistically, but it is the intangibles that made Jim a great football player and teammate. Jim experienced success on the field early in his career, but he remained humble and played the game with a team-first mentality. He gave maximum effort and he sacrificed himself for the greater good of the team. Jim had buttery soft hands and caught every pass that came his way, and he ran very crisp routes, which made up for his skinny frame and his average speed. Jim played the game from the neck up, and that's what really set him apart from his peers. Jim's work ethic impressed me more than anything else. He pushed himself to get better each year that he played the game. Jim hit the weight room later in his career and added strength to his game, which made him a force over the middle. Jim was also a flashy receiver with great hands, and he had to look good while he was out there playing. As good as Jim was on the field, he was just as great on the baseball diamond. I am proud to call Jim a friend, and congratulations on your induction into Chicago's Hall of Fame.
Jim Raptis.
So those are all very kind words. I'd like to start saying my girlfriend at the time was at that Elmhurst game and doesn't remember a single play from it. So it just goes to show how much time has passed. I actually didn't know her at the time, but I'd like to start off by saying this is a very humbling experience to be involved with such a great event. There's a lot of really outstanding athletes who have participated in athletics here. I think we've seen that tonight. And to receive such an award is really an honor. A few weeks ago, Nathan Lindquist sent me an email to ask me who the main influence in athletics for me was when I was in college. And I just think back to my childhood, and without hesitation, I immediately thought of my brother. Really all the sports I played growing up, I played because he was playing them, and I wanted to be like him. Batted left-handed because he did. I was actually right-handed. He was the reason my parents let me play football. I was skinny. He was 5'6". they didn't really want either of us playing, but he, begged them and convinced them to let me play, so that worked out well in the end, and I really can't thank him enough. I was really fortunate because during college we shared a lot of similar experiences. He played baseball here as well. He was always there to listen to me complain, give me a pat on the back, or, every now and then share a good story about Coach Baldea. I'd also like to thank my parents, extended family, and friends, especially my dad. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but he made it to almost every football and baseball game. Can't imagine what it must have took to get out there in the Chicago spring in the low 40 degrees and watch us play a baseball game that looked like a football score. But he was there, and I appreciate that. I'd also like to thank my coaches. For football, Coach Brand, who recruited me, Coach Maloney, and Coach Sokol. Also like to thank guys like Dan Phillips and Arlen Wiley, who you saw there. When I came on campus as a 100 and maybe 65-pound freshman, for not severely physically harming me in practice. And that was a legitimate concern. So, also to my other teammates, the offensive linemen, they don't get enough credit for awards like this and team awards, but I'd like to give a thanks to them. And to the other guys, each and every day we pushed each other to get better. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Josh Dunn, who isn't here, but he was a quarterback I played with, and I don't think there was a more talented guy I played with in any sport while I was here. A lot of the team and individual things that happened wouldn't have happened without him. I'd like to thank my baseball coaches, Coach Baldea, Coach Podeshlik, and Coach Wishnow, and of course my teammates. I think I speak for most of them. I miss the baseball trips in Florida, clowning around on the bench, and just being part of such a great team with such a great group of guys. And lastly, I'd like to thank the training staff, all the other athletes, the athletic department, and the university for putting on such a great night, and all the great times that we had. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Corey Schwantz. As you watch this video, listen carefully to the story about the coin toss in a basketball game. Please, the video now.
Corey Schwantz was a sharpshooting guard on the University of Chicago women's basketball team. Schwantz started her career as the UAA Rookie of the Year in the 2003-04 season, and she went on to be named All-UAA over the next 3 seasons. As a senior, she led the nation in free throw percentage at 93.2%. Schwantz closed out her playing days as the school's 3rd leading scorer with 1,226 points, and she currently ranks in the school's top 10 in 7 career categories. She received the Ball Weber Award twice, as well as the Dudley Award in 2007.
Hi, I'm Aaron Russell. I was fortunate enough to be Corey Schwantz's basketball coach her last 3 years at the University of Chicago, and happy enough to coach with her during my last 5 years at Chicago as well. I think the first thing that I think of when I think of Corey are her parents. Sorry, Corey, but Bill and Jill Schwantz, real Hall of Famers during their time at Chicago. I think obviously we're hugely responsible behind her quick wit, hopefully some of her basketball skills. Phenomenal travelers, like I said, they support us very, very well. I think got stuck in that snowstorm in St. Louis as well with us during one of those years. But really kind of the claim to fame that they had was just the unbelievable ribs that they would make for us during select games. And being a little bit of a rib snob, still by far the best ribs that I've ever had. So thank you, Corey, for bringing your parents into my world. I greatly appreciate that. I think probably on the floor, the biggest thing that Corey was known for was during her first year. We had lost to WashU, I think I was told, like 32, 33 times in a row. And during that first year, Corey hit a shot at the end of regulation, drew something out of a timeout, and being a really young, dumb head coach, probably only worked because Corey, we were smart enough to put the ball in Corey's hand. She made a great play, sent the game to overtime. We won that game, and really kind of changed that rivalry for probably the next 10 plus years and even into today. That really was a real rivalry rivalry that we, was back and forth during that time, and kind of put us on the map a little bit with that game. So thank you for that, Corey. I know that was a big moment in your time and all of our time during Chicago basketball. But again, I think off the floor and maybe somewhat on the floor was just her amazing leadership during that time. I think even sometimes during shoot-arounds from a basketball standpoint, she'd make tips or make suggestions that we'd jump on and we'd change some things in our game plan because of things that she would notice. Always thought she would have been a great, really great coach if she wanted to pursue that, and was in some ways smart enough not to go into that world, but we were fortunate enough to have her on a volunteer basis ever since then. And I know she's been huge in the success since then with the program. And one thing that I remember, with her leadership during her senior year, we had a really young team that year with a lot of freshmen. They truly worshipped the ground that Corey walked on. Maybe a little bit scared of her too, with some of the pranks that she'd sometimes pull, but they sat on her every word. And she was a captain for us that year. Before the game, she would go out and meet with the officials, meet with the other team's captains, and at some point had convinced one of those freshmen that there was a coin toss. And again, we had some success that year. I think we won our first 15, 16 games, something like that. We're ranked #1 in the country. But I think the biggest feather in her cap was she had convinced one of those freshmen that she had correctly called the coin toss before the game in each of those 16 games, and was the reason that we were on such a hot streak. And those of you guys know that obviously there is not a coin toss before basketball games, which I think that young lady found out during her sophomore year at some point. But again, I think Corey's been a part of that program for maybe longer than anybody else, and probably definitely longer than anybody else that I know in Chicago women's basketball history, and very deserving. Going into the Hall of Fame this year. I think there's going to be a lot of other kids that are going to make it into the Hall of Fame here during her tenure that were fortunate enough to be influenced by her, and I really think that they all owe her a true debt of gratitude, because she really did change the culture. She changed the direction of Chicago women's basketball for years to come, and for that I think we're all very grateful to you, Corey. But again, congratulations again. A very special player, very deserving in this honor. I'm very fortunate to be able to have you call me coach for all those years. Even more special and truly cherish that we can call each other friends and good friends now. Appreciate each other's sense of humor. In fact, I still have the Saved by the Bell complete first and second seasons that you gave me on this special night. I'll go ahead and finally admit that I think you may know more Saved by the Bell trivia than I do. So another achievement for you on this great night. But again, thank you, Corey. Everything that you've done for me, for my family, for all the players that you played with, the young women that you were able to coach. Know that we think that you greatly deserve this, maybe more than anybody else that we know, and just how fortunate we are to have you a part of Chicago women's basketball. Congrats, Corey. Enjoy the night, and take it easy on those freshmen this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Corey Schwantz.
I'm a little disappointed he shared the coin toss story, because there's a freshman here tonight who I was planning on using that this season. So, Mary Grace, don't share it with your classmates. I arrived on campus as a first year about 11 years ago in 2003, but what many of you might not know is that I was actually, I've been a Maroon for about 30 years. I'm originally from a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and the hometown mascot is the Menominee Maroon. It seemed fated when I first began talking to Coach Kroll and Coach Reese about attending the University of Chicago. But in addition to the benefit of not having to change my wardrobe, the idea of attending such a prestigious school on an absolutely beautiful campus and getting to play a sport that I loved with an extremely intelligent group of girls was also appealing. And I'm very grateful that I was fortunate enough to be a scholar athlete here and also to be receiving this honor from the selection committee tonight. One of the things I love most about basketball is that it's a team sport, so while I am very grateful, I'm also a bit uncomfortable receiving this honor alone, so I first want to thank and acknowledge all of my teammates and friends who I had the privilege of playing with. I also want to thank my coaches, Coach Kroll, Reese, Parrott, White, and Lane. And I, of course, also am extremely grateful to Coach Aaron Russell, who not only turned the women's basketball program around, but also made sure that nobody in the country was having more fun than us. Unfortunately, he is unable to be here tonight since he and Coach Lane are teaming up again to turn around another program. But I'm unbelievably thankful for Coach Russell's mentorship and friendship. I also want to thank Sean Ahmed, who donated so much of his time to broadcast the games, which was really appreciated by so many families and friends who couldn't always make the trip to Ratner. I must also acknowledge the other coaches in the department, as well as the tremendous staff who create such a supportive environment for all of the athletes. The environment is so great, actually, that I can't seem to leave that place. When Coach Russell asked me to stick around and serve as a volunteer coach, I was quite relieved that I didn't have to give up Maroon basketball cold turkey. So thank you to Coach Carissa Sane-Kanucki for all of the energy and effort she continues to pour into this program. It makes all of us alums proud, and thank you for also allowing me to still be a part of it in a small way. It's been a joy to be around such a talented and entertaining group of young women and coaches, many of whom who are kind enough to spend their Friday night here. So, finally, I want to thank my sister, brother, and grandma who are here tonight and sat through many basketball games. And I especially want to thank my parents, Bill and Jill, who planned to go on a cruise for their 25th wedding anniversary and instead went on a UAA conference tour during my senior year. I'm sure you were regretting that decision when you were in Rochester, New York in January, but thanks for never showing it. But really, that decision is not at all surprising if you know my parents. They have been some of the program's biggest supporters, which makes sense since they too have been Maroons their entire lives. But something I feel I must admit now is that despite all of my family's years of experience, I still really don't know what a Maroon is. While reflecting on my time at the University of Chicago, I realized that while I might not be able to tell you specifically what a Maroon is, I definitely know the qualities that make a Maroon. As you've seen here tonight, Maroons are committed, passionate, hardworking, and unique scholar athletes. And I feel very lucky that I've had the opportunity to still get to have the opportunity to be one. Plus, it's way better than being a Wash U Bear. Thank you.
Our final inductee is Andy Stroman. As you watch the video, you will learn that he is one of the great shooters in the history of this basketball program. He had a year in 1996-1997 season when he made an incredible 52% of his three-point shots. If you don't think that is an achievement, walk over to Ratner and stand at the three-point arc and look at the rim from where you are standing. He made more than half of his shots from that distance. If he had done that in the NBA last year, he would have led the league in three-point percentage. The leader in professional basketball was a guy named Kyle Korver, familiar to Bulls fans. He made only 47% of his shots. And he, by the way, is paid $9.5 million to do that. Let's have the video on Andy, please.
Andy Stroman played for the men's basketball squads that won 2 UAA championships and advanced twice to the NCAA tournament round of 16. Stroman averaged 14.3 points per game and was named UAA Player of the Year as a senior in the 1998-99 season. He went on to receive the 1999 Stagg Medal. Stroman led the nation in three-point percentage by making 52.7% from beyond the arc in the 1996-97 season. In the school's career records, he ranks number 2 in three-point percentage at 45.5% and number 3 in three-pointers made with 185.
Hi, I'm Mike McGrath. I'm the basketball coach at the University of Chicago, and it's my honor today to talk a little bit about Andy Stroman, as he's being inducted into the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame. I was the assistant basketball coach here at the college when Andy played from 1995 to 1999, and it was just a terrific opportunity to have him on our basketball team. You know, Andy walked into a team that had a bunch of guys who were a little bit older and a little more experienced than him at his position, and he never wavered in his effort, always continued to work hard, was a great teammate, and played really well for us. And various times the coaches and the players on the team, you'd have these little side conversations about how good is Andy? What would Andy do if he ever had a chance to do a little bit more? And at one point, one of our All-Americans, Aaron Horn, a Hall of Famer and the third all-time leading scorer at the University of Chicago, went down with an injury, and Andy had a chance to start for 5 games in the UAA. And during that stretch, he showed actually how good he was. He averaged 17 points a game, shot 67% from the floor, and made 19 of 27 three-pointers. That was the year he led the country in three-point field goal percentage. And we went 5-0 in those games and went a long way to helping us win our first UAA championship. Aaron came back, and Andy went back to his previous role and never missed a beat, just did whatever we asked of him, helped our team be really successful. He helped us to back-to-back UAA titles, the first in school history. And then when those guys that were a year older than him moved on, Andy stepped in and was the first UAA player of the year in Chicago men's basketball history. He had a great career. He was a great guy to coach. He helped our teams be tremendously successful. But the best part about him was he was just so incredibly humble. Andy was a great, great player, but he never told you that. On some teams that weren't exactly known for their humility, Andy just kind of kept everything in check, and he was the perfect guy for those teams, and a great player for Chicago, and a joy to coach. And Andy, I'm really happy for you and your family. It's a tremendous honor and one you richly deserve, and we couldn't be happier for you. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Stroman.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Receiving this honor is so much a function of the talent and the teamwork that I had a chance to play with, which enabled me to be a positive contributor for the team. It was a team with a very high basketball IQ. We had 2 All-Americans, Rusty Lloyd and Aaron Horn I played with, and many other talented guys, many of whom are here tonight. Also like to call out the team assistant Mike Frankel and the trainer Tim Timebomb Timmons. So, but you guys were talented and unselfish, and that made it a lot of fun to play and enabled us to win. And I think those were, I think of your intellectual capacity, your ambition, your industriousness, and that enabled you to be highly accomplished as students and off the court as well. And I'm awed by the collective achievements of the team. Many people are successful in finance, in business, in education, in medicine, and law. We have hedge fund managers, doctors, entrepreneurs, a Rhodes Scholar, the list goes on. And the qualities that made us successful in the court, I think have made you guys successful in life. So, I thank you for the chance to play together, and I cherish our enduring friendship. And on the court, we accomplished much. We had 2 conference championships, 2 second-place finishes, and 2 Sweet 16 finishes also. I'll never forget the electric atmosphere at Henry Crown and Moody Bible. And our student body packed the house. It was electric. And we rose to the occasion both times. And Rusty, the half-court shot at Rochester, and Aaron putting us on his back at Emory, and many other memories as well. Coaches, Pat Cunningham and Mike McGrath, I think your leadership had the right touch, and you had wonderful basketball knowledge, and I think you had insight into the personalities of the team and a good balance, how to balance team chemistry. So I'm also energized by the passion that Coach McGrath has for the program, for trying to get greater engagement with alumni and for his enthusiasm for the unique assets that the U of C offers to prospective student athletes. You know, I'd also like to recognize those who had the vision for the University Athletic Association. To Tom Weingartner, our longtime athletic director, I'd like to thank you for your leadership. I think the combination of academic and athletic pursuits at Chicago and other institutions in the conference are as it should be, each in its proper place, consistent with the values of the institution, and while also raising the quality of student life and the profile of the university overall. And let me tell you that leaving Chicago in January to play basketball in Atlanta shouldn't be underestimated. Thanks also to those in the wider academic community who supported us. Professor Alan Sanderson came to a lot of our games. His class on the economics of sports was easily my favorite class. Professor Starkey Duncan was also a regular. I like to name drop that I used to play 3-on-3 against his son, who's the current Secretary of Education, and probably met his my match there. I'm grateful for the and a proud alum of this institution. It gave me a world-class education, many opportunities. I'm proud of its values, its reputation, scholarship, and the accomplishments of its alumni. And I recall a job interview in graduate school with someone whose parents had both graduated from the U of C, and in his eyes, the Chicago undergrad education commanded a lot of respect. And he said, your GPA must be a real number coming from the U of C. So I give thanks for my coaches and teammates, for our experiences together, for the opportunities afforded me by this great university, and for this honor. God bless you. Thank you.
Let's have a round of applause for the class of 2014. I also want to bring out here Nathan Lindquist. Where are you, Nathan? You're back there somewhere. I know you are. Come on out here. Nathan is the guy who produced and directed those videos. It was a fantastic amount of work. He dug up all those photos, all that material, and put up with all of those people who were talking on the video. Hooray for Nathan. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Damon Cates. He is the Executive Director of the University Alumni Association. We are privileged to have a guy like Damon in that job. He joined the university in 2011 after holding senior advancement positions at Stanford and Penn. That's the word, advancement. That means watch out when he comes to you. He's going to try to extract something from you, and he's very good at it. He has led alumni relations and alumni giving program with a new focus on collaboration and on engaging the alumni community in the life of the university. Welcome, Damon.
So you get me too again. So for those of you who have been coming to this event, you know that the conclusion is normally comments from John Davey. And this marks John's last year as the chair of the selection committee. So Damon and I are here to co-present a special recognition for our friend John. From what I understand, and Tom is here so he can confirm, with the Ratner Athletic Center being built and the plans in place, John really saw a wonderful opportunity to create an Athletics Hall of Fame to honor the many fine and accomplished Maroons through the university's history.
And as someone who has the honor and privilege of serving as the executive director of the Alumni Association, I get to work with many, many alumni, some of whom are here this evening. I often, just to tell a slight personal story, I'm one of 6 grandchildren on my mother's side, And when you were with my grandmother, she would tell you alone, she would tell you that you were her favorite grandchild. I thought that through, and I realized that she was also telling my cousins that they were her favorite grandchild whenever they were alone with her too. But in this case, John is one of my favorite alums of the University of Chicago. He really, really exemplifies someone that if we just had many, many more of him, how wonderful the university would be on top of how great it already is. So he served on the Alumni Board of Governors for 6 years. I had the honor of serving as the executive director for 4 of those, and very much cherished the time that I spent with John. And John was also recognized in 2004 as an Alumni Award recipient, which was a very, very well and much deserved honor. So this is only a small tribute to this evening of all the great things that John has done for the University of Chicago.
So Damon and I are honored to be recognizing his dedicated service once again tonight. John, could you come up, please? So on this commemorative clock, we have inscribed in gratitude for your leadership and dedication to the University of Chicago Athletics Hall of Fame. We thank you, John.
Thank you very much. I care a lot about this Hall of Fame, and I'm pleased to have it actually be held in this place, which I care a lot about historically. And all I can tell you is I saw so many friends tonight. Thanks a lot. Come again.
Okay, thank you. And to actually conclude our event tonight, I want to bring up Dennis Walden, who is our newly appointed chair of the Athletics Hall of Fame Selection Committee. He is the current graduate Order of the Sea president. He is a graduate of the college, and he was the Stag Medal winner in 1969. So please welcome Dennis Walden.
I'll be brief. Thank you. On behalf of the selection committee, congratulations to all of the inductees, obviously, and many thanks to the selection committee for all of your time and effort put into this process and your obviously wise decisions. And thank everyone for attending. And a number of alums have supported the attendance of students, coaches, and staff. So we thank you for that, and hopefully there's some interaction so people can see what's going on campus. And of course, thanks to our presenter. Where is he? Right down here. After 12 great years, Lester Munson. Thank you very much, Lester. And something like this could not occur without tremendous work by the Alumni Services people, Kim Grash, Joe Weingartner, and their supporting staff. And I was going to mention Nathan, but he's already been mentioned, and he's over there somewhere. So thank you for all of the details. This is a tremendous event. A joint venture between Damon Cates' Alumni Association and Aaron McDermott's Athletic Department. Thank you also to Dean Rasmussen for coming here tonight, representing student life, and it's a great tradition at this university that athletics is a very important part of student life. Briefly, with regard to our selection process, the committee reviews the nominations on file every year, considers the qualifications of the potential nominees, and selects them. But we need more information. We need more nominees. So we encourage information from people you know, your classmates. The nomination form is online at the athletics department website. So please give us information on that. With regard to tomorrow, the homecoming, as you probably all know, the block party starts at 11 a.m. 56th and Ellis, admission is free. You're all invited to that. Football game at 1:30 against Wash U, as we all know. And our Hall of Fame inductees tonight will be introduced at halftime, so you get to applaud them again. At the conclusion of the event here, we are reconvening downstairs for another glass of water for all of us to drink. Technicality, all the inductees, when we're all done here, if you will come up here, we're going to have a group photo of all the inductees and your plaques, so please remember to do that. And is the men's a cappella choir about to come? They are going to sing some songs for us and then lead us in the alma mater, which is at the back end of the program. So we hope to see everyone next year. We hope you've had a good time, and let's hear it for the men's a cappella choir.